Hi everyone, I'm Anne-Marie from brambleberry.com. Today I'm going to show you how to make these Peppermint Candy Bath Fizzies using Brambleberry's brand new Candy Cane fragrance from our Joyful Holiday collection. Since these are ready to use right away, they are the perfect stocking stuffer, the perfect last minute hostess gift, or the most ideal thing to help fill up your table if you're selling at holiday craft shows. They're great for beginner and kid safe as well. So to get this look, we utilize Mica Painting, and it's a fairly simple design, so you don't really need a lot of artistic skill to make this look extra cute. To get this shape, we're using the Brambleberry disc mold and package. I love them because, well, they're really easy to pop out, and you can either use them for packaging, like actually just send stuff like this. You could even put this on your Christmas tree, or you can rinse them out and reuse them again. That's what me and my kiddos do. When we were designing our Joyful Holiday collection, we all knew that we wanted a straight up candy cane fragrance just like the one you smelled as a kid. And boy, does this one bring me back to so many great childhood memories. It's really a traditional candy cane. It's got lots of vanilla notes in it, beautiful peppermint notes, and it is very strong. For this Bath Fizzy, we're going to do the very classic 2-to-1 ratio, 2 parts baking soda or sodium bicarbonate to 1 part citric acid. The chemical reaction that forms when the 2 of those combine with water is a beautiful, fizzing, whirling, twirling, lovely bath extravaganza. So one of the keys with Bath Fizzies is if there is any sort of lump in it, what sometimes happens is you can get weird little warts in your Bath Fizzies. And they aren't that big of a deal. It's kind of an aesthetic thing, but that's one of the reasons we do this extra step of using a sifter just to get rid of any lumps. You'll notice I went ahead and put on gloves, and that's because I want to protect my nail polish. There's nothing inherently dangerous or bad about this, but baking soda is such a good cleaner because it's abrasive. So when I'm doing this, it actually would abrade the nail polish off, so that's why I put gloves on. Now that all these ingredients are sifted in here, I'm just gonna give them a quick stir with my hands and then move on to the rest of the ingredients. This particular recipe, I wanted it to be extra firm, so I am using Brambleberry's deodorized cocoa butter to help give it a little bit of firmness. Now, if I had used the regular cocoa butter that smells like chocolate, love that smell, it might have made this more of like a peppermint chocolate, which would be delicious, but not the traditional candy cane. I'm gonna go ahead and put this cocoa butter into this container with my sweet almond oil and melt this in the microwave. Notice the headspace in here isn't that much. You don't wanna put like a little amount of cocoa butter into a huge container because sometimes that can cause a little bit of superheating to happen. Now that my cocoa butter and my sweet almond oil are nicely melted, I'm going to also put in Polysorbate 80. And what's Polysorbate 80 and do you need it? So Polysorbate 80 is an emulsifier. So what that means is it's going to take all of this beautiful oil that's so luscious and so good for your skin, and it's gonna help it mix with your bath water and help prevent ring around the tub. And it'll also make the bath water just a little bit less slippery, which is of course something you always need to take into account when you're putting this much oil into a recipe. I'm also going to measure out by weight my fragrance, and this smells like it is so strong and is going to be so good in the bath. And keep in mind though that you are literally trying to scent an entire giant bathtub with one little Bath Fizzy. And so that's one of the reasons this kind of smells strong initially, but once it's mixed into here, it'll be great. I'm just gonna stir this all up to make sure it's fully mixed in. So when I add it to here, every little bit is even. So now I'm going to just drizzle this hot oil mixture into my sodium bicarbonate and citric acid. This is a hot oil mixture. Don't drizzle it directly on your hands. And if you're making this little kids, this is the kind of thing that I would be helping with if your little kids are the same age as mine, AKA toddlers. This has a really good consistency already. This is sticking together in my hands. It's kind of like a pie crust consistency. I'm going to go ahead just to make sure we have a really good hard consistency that's going to mold up well. I'll do a few squirts of witch hazel, but I don't need that much. Notice I'm using witch hazel, and the reason I'm using witch hazel is that way the fizzing reaction won't start early. So now this is really well mixed and the consistency is holding together in my hand. I'm just going to take it and fill my disc mold and package up and really press down firmly. And the reason we want to press down firmly is because we need to pop these out in one piece so that we can paint them. So I want them to be pretty hard, nice little pucks. I also want them to be pretty flat on the back, so I'm going to be thinking about that as I'm forming them. If you are going to be using the lid that works with these, make sure you're not doming at all, and make sure you're also getting the Bath Fizzy mixture from away from the channels so the two sides fit together evenly and smoothly. So with these molds, these are so fantastic because they really do allow the Bath Fizzy to pop out easily. I like to leave these in the molds kind of overnight. If you're in a really humid area, keep that in mind that you might want to have a fan running over these if you do pop them out a little bit early. So this made just about 7 of these, and if you are making this for a much bigger batch, you can always size the recipe up. Just make sure to keep the same ratio. Back in the day when I used to do craft shows, I used to make Bath Fizzies and use a giant Hobart mixer, and that was fantastic for keeping everything moving and even. So these guys I made earlier, I made yesterday. I'm just gonna pop one out to show you how easy it is. They pop out so smoothly, and what also I love is this texture. The cocoa butter gives it a beautiful firmness. The trick with mica painting is that we use rubbing alcohol to get our mica to have the correct viscosity in order to paint. And it's just a little bit of rubbing alcohol to mica, and you kind of eyeball it. You don't want it to be too thick, right? Because then it's clumpy, but you don't want it to be too thin because you need it to actually paint enough. And a good ratio to start with is about 1 teaspoon of colorant to about 1 tablespoon of rubbing alcohol. And remember, you can always put more in, can't take it out. So I'm gonna show you this style. It's a little bit more beginner friendly, especially again, if you're like me and you're not that artistic, but you could also do the pinwheel, which is super fun, and I think is a very recognizable peppermint candy. So now that my mica is mixed, and this is Kelly Green Mica from Brambleberry, I love this green color. Just take a regular paintbrush, and I'm gonna just kind of get off a little bit of the excess color, and then carefully, with a very hopefully still hand, not too much coffee this morning, start to do your lines. And the thing with the lines is you're gonna be able to go back over them and make them more perfect. So this is kind of a first pass where you're getting really good placement. And then once you get the top, then we do the sides. And you can see that that one had just a little bit too much alcohol. It's fine, but we wanna have enough alcohol on there to get good coverage, but not so much that it's gonna drip down. At this point, my hands are shaking because I think this might be a sign I had a little bit too much coffee, or they're just tired of this detail work. But either way, this is a very forgiving design, thankfully. So now I'm gonna put one more, I'm kind of looking at my spacing going, oh, I need one more stripe. So I'm gonna do one more stripe, and then I'm gonna start working on the sides. So we do the top first, we kind of perfect the top. And remember, this is a Bath Fizzy, so it doesn't have to be perfect, but it's nice when your design works out. So once you've got your lines as perfect as you want them, then it's time to move to the sides. And when we move to the sides, we're just trying to connect these guys all the way down to the bottom. So it takes a little bit of freehanding and a little bit more steadiness of your hand, but the results are worth it. So as you're doing this, be aware, of course, where you're gripping the bath bomb, because it's really easy to put your thumb into the green mica and then just smudge the whole thing. Of course, I wouldn't be speaking from practice or someone who had actually done that a few times, but just be careful about where you're gripping things. And then another thing to notice is when you're painting the lines down is kind of just look to see how your connection is. Is this line thicker than this line? And if it's a little bit thicker, you can kind of go back over it to make sure that it's even. So just like the green, we start at the very top, and it's kind of hard to figure out where you want to orient your stripes. I notice that my hands are shaking, which is never a plus when you are trying to get fine detail work in. Thankfully, this brush is big enough though that it's pretty forgiving and I'll be able to go over the lines again. So with the red, I did a lot less lines than I did with the green. It's a different design. I still think it's pretty recognizable as a peppermint candy. And now I'm going to do the sides. So I'm just gonna keep painting these and finish my 7 bath fizzies. But in terms of packaging these, once they're dry, and give it a 24-hour period, once they're dry, you can go ahead and put them right back in that disc packaging, and that's really great, especially if you're shipping them. Or you can put them in a little cellophane bag and tie them on the ends like little cute twist ties to make it actually look like a peppermint candy. Or you could put it in just in a regular cellophane bag and put a little label on it. There's lots of different options. The main thing to keep in mind though is these are ready to use right away as soon as they're dry and hard. All these ingredients are available at brambleberry.com. If you liked this video, please hit the thumbs up and subscribe to the channel as well. Until next time, I can't wait to see what you make. I'm going to show you how to make these peppermint bath bombs from our Joyful Holiday Collection. That was stupid, I'm gonna redo that. So to get this look, we also used, forget it, it's just stupid.